It's always the people who suffer at the hands of the leaders, folks. It's always the people who suffer the consequences for what these leaders do. And there's so many people who still believe that there's a leader out there who's going to come and save them. All of this stuff is a puppet show, folks. The whole thing is theatre for the masses. And all of this stuff, it's a sideshow. Theatre for the masses to keep the people occupied and to keep them distracted. You know, all of this stuff goes on in the world simply because we tolerate it. We tolerate wrong behaviour. You know, the whole smart grid that's being rolled out is again because we tolerate wrong behaviour. Everything is because we tolerate wrong behaviour. And all of this stuff that happens all around the world in all of these countries is because of our willing tolerance of wrong behaviour. That's the issue. It really is. That's one of the major problems that we face. And you've really got to look at where this willing tolerance of wrong behaviour is leading, ladies and gentlemen. You really do. I mean, look at the education system. Look at the library system. Look at the way all of our books are being removed from libraries. Everything's becoming digitized. And think about that, folks. Everything's becoming digitized. They're removing us of the access to all of the knowledge of humanity that we have stored in libraries. They're taking all of our knowledge from us. And you might say, oh, that's okay. It's all available online. But what, you've got to go and purchase it at Amazon? But what if there's something that causes a big EM meltdown and we suddenly lose the power grid and we lose all of our information? That's the thing, folks. We're having all of our information taken from us. And people simply can't see it because they are so locked into this digital world. They think the virtual world is the real world, but it's not. The real world's outside. The real world is in the library. That's where the information used to be. And it used to be real information you could pick up and hold in your hands and read with your own eyes. Now it's all online. Look at the education system, common purpose, common core, all of this rubbish that they're teaching the kids now. They're removing them of all of their life skills and they're enslaving them to a digital system. Do you consider this to be right behaviour from your government? Of course not. Not many people do, but they tolerate it anyway. They just go, oh, gee, the education system is bad now, but they don't do anything about it. They don't take care of their children themselves or educate them themselves or complain to the school or take the kids out of school and start some sort of a homeschooling thing where all the kids could actually attend a classroom with other kids. You know, when you homeschool, you don't have to just do it with one child. You could do it with all the kids in the neighbourhood and the parents could take turns or do it all together or whatever. I mean, there's ways around this. If the government says you can't, well, screw the government. Do it anyway. You know, we tolerate wrong behaviour. That's the problem, folks. If the government says you can't, it's because they're engaged in wrong behaviour and you're tolerating it. The kids that are beginning school now, even the kids that are starting primary school, but the kids especially that are just beginning school now, in 10 years or so when they come out of school, they are going to be completely enslaved to a digital world and they are going to have absolutely no reference point for freedom. They're going to have no reference point for what freedom may once have looked like. They're going to have no reference point for what it really means to be human. And this is going to happen in a very, very short time. 7 to 10 years, folks. The kids that come out, the post-millennial kids that are coming out of school, are going to be absolutely enslaved to this system with no reference point to go on. And when you look at how the generation gap has been widened, purposely widened by the system, you know, adults are thought to be old fuddy-duddies. You can't really discipline your kids now or teach them anything real because if you do, they may complain to their friends and then press charges against you and claim they're being abused at school because they don't have the latest iPhone. And then they'll be taken away from you and put into foster care where they will be given the latest iPhone and trained to be the perfect little robot for the coming slave society. I mean, that's where we're going, folks, if we don't take the matter in hand now. And it has to be the aware generations, the awake generations now have to do this. Now, some of the kids that are coming up, some of the teenagers that are coming up are pretty awake and pretty aware of what's going on. They're not really awake, but they're aware of what's going on anyway. They're aware of something being terribly wrong, and they're aware of how disconnected they're becoming due to these smart devices and due to this infatuation they have with mobile phones, with scrying mirrors. So all isn't lost, but it's the kids that are starting school now. You know, look at the leaps and bounds that we've made in the last 50 years. Look at the leaps and bounds we've made in the last 10 and 5 years as far as technology goes. And imagine what it's going to be like in 7 to 10 years from now when the kids that are starting school now come out of high school and leave high school and get out there into the world. It's going to be such a different world. And these children, as I said, will have no reference point if we do not choose to intervene now. And forget this puppet show of politics. That isn't going to solve anything. None of the stuff that we're focusing on is going to solve anything. It's all these external issues that we're focusing on and thinking we can point the finger at someone and heal the world that way, but it's what's being rolled out underneath. It's the text, all of this communication system, this surveillance system, this digitizing of everything. That is the problem. That is the New World Order. I keep saying this because it's true. And is it a really important issue that people need to focus on? Because in another 5 or 10 years, they're going to look up from all their research and go, wow, what happened? How did I get here? How did I suddenly find myself in this incredible digital lockdown? Why wasn't I paying attention? And now's the time that people can pay attention. If we don't do it soon, folks, then there's no point even continuing with what we do in the independent media. There's no point even protesting this system, because we're not going to make a difference if people continue to use the tech. And the people out there in the independent media need to be setting some sort of an example in this. They really do. Now, too many people are just talking to Siri while they're making their truth videos. I mean, what's that all about? Siri is the problem. Siri is the New World Order. Same as Cortana, same as all of these voice assistants and all of this tech that we're given. This is all part of the problem. Now, you're complaining about the system, but you run out and buy a new iPhone with your credit card and come home to make truth videos. What is that? That's a complete contradiction of personal values. It's a complete contradiction of everything you're speaking out against. And look, I'm not meaning to be brash with anybody. I guess a lot of people simply can't see what they're doing. A lot of people really can't see what this control grid is and where it's coming from. And they really don't understand what the New World Order is. They can see that there's a lot of corrupt people doing a lot of corrupt things. They can all tell that they're in a state of scarcity because of this money system. They can all see what Israel's doing, what the Jesuits are doing, and all of these smoke screens that are put up there. But so much of it is smoke screens. You know, and even if you do find the terrible people at the top that you've been looking for all your life, what are you going to do then? You can point your finger at them all you like, but who's going to arrest and try these people? Nobody. And even if they are arrested and tried, well, what then? What happens then? The system's still here. Everything's still rolling out. People just aren't seeing the forest for the trees. You know, it's this automated system that is the problem. And as I mentioned last week, the internet itself was actually given to the world by CERN, folks. We really should look at that. And look at the internet. What is it? The international net. The World Wide Web. And what does a net do? And what does a web do? They both catch their prey.